Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into a really dense and unsettling narrative today. It's this piece of source material that focuses on a seemingly ordinary family living with an extraordinary and just profoundly disturbing secret.
It's a really chilling examination of how horror can be metabolized, into daily life.
Metabolize, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, the author uses this incredible detail to establish what we could call a state of functional secrecy. They're not trying to hide a sin or something like that. They're trying to manage a biological necessity.
And that necessity is terrifying.
Absolutely.
The entire architecture of the narrative, it really hinges on one central chilling image, doesn't it? The locks on Grandpa's door.
Oh, yeah.
See these heavy brass brackets fixed deep into the door frame, and the old polished skeleton keys resting on a dish by Dad's plate every single night.
And for the protagonist, this ritual was just normal.
Right.
A simple safety measure for a frail, elderly person. That's all they're led to believe.
But the effort required to maintain that normality is it's immense.
Well, that's it. You have the mundane, the faded wallpaper, the humming radiator, the smell of chicken stew, and it's all used as this defensive barrier against the silent, mounting dread that the parents share.
They know the truth.
They know the truth, and their lack of discussion, the fact they never talk about it, is the very foundation of the protagonist's ignorance. The silence is the containment.
So our mission today, then, is to peel back that functional secrecy. We need to trace the total breakdown of this decades-long routine, the violent truth it's been concealing.
And the really grim implications of this inherited host role within the family.
Exactly. Okay, so let's unpack this cycle of horror and, of sacrifice.
I think we have to start with the discipline of the routine itself. The narrative makes it so clear that the true terror wasn't just the monster. It was the quiet perfection of the life they built despite the monster.
And the routine is so specific, it feels almost liturgical.
Yeah.
Every evening after dinner, Grandpa would finish, fold his napkin with this meticulous care, and place it beside his plate.
So precise.
Then he'd stand up slowly, thank Mom for the meal, pat Dad's shoulder, and give the protagonist this gentle nod, always with that little tired smile.
And then the sounds begin.
The jingle of the keys, the heavy door closing, and then those two. Unmistakable, solid clicks of the lock.
And we have to mention Dad testing the handle.
Oh, yes.
That quick, decisive shake to make sure the lock holds. That speaks volumes. It's not just a habit. It's a non-negotiable step in a generational containment protocol.
It shows that Grandpa is contained, not because he's incapable, but because he's dangerous.
Exactly.
And yet, during the day, he's the picture of frailty. He's reading with thick glasses, stroking the cat, taking these slow, deliberate laps around the garden.
Oh, sweet old man.
Right. And that image stands in such stark opposition to the hidden need for physical nightly imprisonment. I mean, the psychological stress on the family must have been enormous.
Well, that's a great observation, because the narrative suggests that pretense it's necessary. If the host loses their outward humanity too soon, the containment just breaks down completely. That normalcy is the thin, fragile membrane protecting the truth.
Which is why the catalyst moment is so shocking. That night, during the meal, the thick chicken stew, the facade just shatters.
It happens so fast.
Grandpa pauses mid-meal, and he presses a napkin to his mouth after this deep, ragged cough. And when he pulls it away, the protagonist sees it.
The stain.
The dark red stain blooming across the folded cotton. It wasn't a huge amount of blood, just this small, heavy spot, but it just lands like a physical blow.
And the parents' reaction, or I guess their lack of one, is the key here.
Yeah,
they just exchange a glance across the table. It's this whole terrifying conversation conveyed just through the tightening of their eyes and the set of their jaws. They don't speak. They don't panic.
They just try to change the subject.
Exactly.
And that silent exchange is the critical first crack in it all. It instantly shifts the protagonist's concern from, oh, Grandpa is sick, to Grandpa is sick with something they will not talk about.
This is the moment they realize the locks aren't about keeping Grandpa safe.
No, they're about keeping something else in.
And that realization, it just overrides decades of conditioning. The worry about Grandpa being locked alone, sick or scared, it becomes more powerful than the guilt of breaking the one rule.
Never question the lock.
Right. The need to know why suddenly outweighs the terror of defiance.
So the investigation begins. Lying awake later, the protagonist is drawn to these sounds coming from behind the thick door. It starts with a subtle noise, a soft humming, quiet and tuneless.
So unnerving. And then come the whispers. The protagonist couldn't make out the words, only this unfamiliar, irregular cadence described almost like a prayer. The fact that any of this is audible through solid brass and wood suggests that whatever is happening in there is not passive.
It's an active process.
An active process of possession or maybe consumption.
And that search for answers leads to the most chilling detail of all for me.
Okay.
The hidden preparedness of the family.
The key.
The hunt for a spare key. They find Dad's dresser, and behind a thin wooden false bottom, there it is. The skeleton key. It's worn smooth, its teeth are darkened with age.
That false bottom just says everything. This isn't a new spare key they cut last week.
Yeah.
This is an heirloom of the duty. It implies that for generations, the family has known the key might be needed, either for a crisis or for a handover. It confirms this wasn't some ad hoc thing.
It was a carefully concealed family tradition of containment.
Yeah.
And the protagonist is immediately caught. The heavy guilt of taking that key, of snapping that invisible thread of secrecy, it's fighting with the memory of Grandpa's frailty.
And his final smile, that trembling smile.
Exactly. The desire to provide comfort it overwhelms a lifetime of obedience.
And that final dinner before the incident, it's just saturated with dread. Grandpa's described as hunched in his chair, eyes shadowed and distant. He barely touches his food.
He's already transitioning from host to prisoner.
And his final words, they're just the saddest resignation. He says softly, "Thank you. Thank you for taking care of me all these years."
It's an acceptance of fate, a farewell.
It is, and this is key. Mom and Dad don't respond with panic or sadness. They respond with a gentle hand squeeze and a nod.
That terrifying calm again.
It's the quiet resignation of institutionalized victims. They know exactly what this night is going to bring. They're not just caretakers.
They're jailers.
Preparing for a necessary sacrifice.
And the narrative shifts instantly from that silent dread to just visceral horror the moment the protagonist turns that key.
This sensory experience is so powerful. The initial smell of lavender powder and old mothballs, Grandpa's usual scent, is just violently cut through by something damp and metallic that set my teeth on edge.
The air is thick,
oppressed, stale.
And what they find, it's not the sweet old man from the garden. Grandpa is propped up, his breathing is labored, and there's a pale, cloudy film covering his pupils.
That milky sheen. It's like the last bit of his self-awareness is just going out.
And his warning is so stark.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have come in. I don't have much time left to keep it down.
Keep it down. That phrase is the horrifying insight into his role, isn't it?
Completely.
He wasn't just locked in because he was, contagious. He was locked in because he was actively using the last of his will to manage and suppress the entity's needs. He was a self-aware cage.
And then comes the transformation. Swift. Brutal. The body contorts. His back arches, the vertebrae jutting through his shirt. The jaw cracks with a wet, audible pop. And then this wet, choking sound
precedes the entity's emergence, and the visual of the thing itself. The source describes pale flesh, twisting folds, slick with mucus and threaded with thin blue veins.
Writhing and pulsing out of his mouth.
Stretching his jaw wider than should be humanly possible. It's this biological horror that is just inseparable from the host.
And Grandpa, even as his body's being violated, he manages this garbled final confession that explains everything. I'm sorry, I tried to keep it fed quietly.
So the containment wasn't just physical restraint.
No. It was the active, tragic management of the parasite's hunger inside his own body.
And then Dad charges in, not with restraint, but with an old iron crowbar. The violence is pure desperation.
He swings down into the coils wrapped around the protagonist's leg, and there's this wet, tearing sound as it sprays dark mucus.
But the parasite just recoils and surges back twice as thick, and Dad realizes in that instant.
Fighting the creature is futile. Not while the host is still alive.
And he faces the most profound, agonizing choice you can imagine. He raises the crowbar and with a strangled cry brings it down hard onto Grandpa's skull.
It's horrific. But the narrative frames it as an act of ultimate containment and mercy, destroying the host to destroy the means of spread.
It's the emotional pinnacle of the whole story. The sound of bone crunching under iron signals the end of Grandpa, but the horror, it doesn't stop.
It's not at all. The silent, ritualistic aftermath begins immediately. Mom appears in the doorway, and her role is suddenly crystal clear. She's clutching this heavy ceramic bowl, caked with brassosha herbs and strips of raw meat glistening in thick, oily liquid.
And she's chanting these rough and broken words.
This proves it. The containment was never just a lock and a crowbar. It was a deeper established ritual that the parents participate in together. a system designed to manage the transfer of the entity.
Exactly. And once the chaos subsides, we get the confession in the kitchen. Dad is just physically sunken, emotionally spent, and he finally gives the explanation.
Your grandfather, he was host to something. Locking him in at night was the only way to keep it contained. It feeds while he sleeps, but it doesn't spread.
And this is the context for generations of silence. Their whole existence is defined by this service. They're jailers, performing a generational duty to contain this thing.
To keep it from the rest of the world.
But the chilling conclusion arrives with brutal timing. Dad just stops talking abruptly, and his eyes lock on the clock.
It's 7:59 p.m. That shift in focus from confession to timing is the ultimate devastating pivot. Mom retrieves the heavy brass key.
And then, without any fanfare, with a look of cold, ancient acceptance,
She locks Dad in the room.
and the protagonist is hit with absolute certainty, the entity, it did not die.
No.
It transferred seamlessly, maybe even willingly, to the next family member. The horror isn't contained by locks or by violence, it is inherited.
Dad accepted his duty as the new host, and the cycle continues, unbroken.
And the grief Mom shows is mixed with this terrifying resignation. She knows the terms of the inheritance. She knows who's next in line.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We went from looking at a simple family routine to uncovering this desperate generational sacrifice dictated by a parasitic entity.
The family ritual, the 2 clicks of the lock, the silent exchange, the hidden key, it was never about protecting the house from Grandpa.
It was about protecting the entire world from the thing inside him, at the terrible personal cost of the host.
It really forces us to confront the horror of duty versus self-preservation. I mean, if the purpose of your life is predetermined to be an unwilling host and a cycle of sacrifice, how do you even live?
The protagonist is now just left staring at that empty chair, haunted by the lingering scent of Grandpa, with the full knowledge of the mechanism of their own terrifying destiny.
How long can that knowledge, that intimate understanding of what is waiting for you, coexist with the sheer, visceral terror of knowing you are next?
That's the heavy weight of the inheritance.
You're left with the certainty that those 2 clicks of the lock will, one day soon, signal your own final moments of freedom. Something profound to mull over until our next deep dive.